Hello, my name is Tracy Sinclair and welcome to Coaching in Conversation, the Mastery Series. This series of conversations explores the concept of mastery in coaching. And I have the great pleasure of talking with several ICF Master Certified Coaches from around the world to understand what mastery really means to them, both as coaching practitioners and also as human beings. We explore many different perspectives and nuances of this topic, and I hope it is of use and interest to you as you continue to navigate your own pathway of development. Hello and welcome again to another episode of Coaching in Conversation. This time I am joined by a gentleman called Heru Yuwono, who is based in Indonesia, and I have the absolute pleasure of talking to him about mastery as part of our Mastery series. Heru is a triple masters, so he has the MCC, Master Certified Coach with the ICF. He's also a master practitioner with the EMCC and a master executive coach with the AC. And he is the founder of the COME, Coaching and Mentoring Institute. He's also an executive coach, leadership coach, a mentor and a facilitator. And Heru found himself having a wonderful new segue in his life after 20 years in the corporate environment, and coaching came into his world and he took that pathway, and here we are, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that in the podcast. There are many titles that this podcast could have, because I really feel as though the conversation with Heru just covered so many interesting elements, but the title that I have landed with, which I hope you will enjoy, is this episode is called Integrating the Paradoxes of Coaching. I hope you enjoy. Well, I would say good morning, Heru. It's probably good afternoon for you, joining me today from Indonesia. I am so happy to have this opportunity to talk to you today. So thank you very much for coming and spending this time with me.
Well, Tracy, I thank you. The honor is mine to know you and to be working with you, collaborating so far. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, you're very welcome. You know the feeling is reciprocated. So
Indeed.
I love the conversations that we have and the work that we're doing. So well, today we are here to explore the topic of mastery.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear some of your perspectives. Maybe starting with what just the term mastery means for you, regardless of whether it's in coaching or anything else. What does the word mastery mean for you?
Well, may I share my preference, Tracy?
Please do.
I have no objection with the word mastery. However, if I may choose, I prefer to use maturity. Actually, that's why I like your book, Becoming a Coach. It's a really good book. So you mentioned about a journey to maturity. Maybe I have 3 personal reasons. So this is maybe very personal. Number 1, sounds to me, maturity is more like a process, not just a destination. Number 2, maturity is something not just our doing, but also our being inside us. And number 3, I think when we are mature, I think the benefit is not only for us, but only for other people. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing that in, because as you know, that's a term that we have used in the book, and I completely agree with you. I love what you're saying there about maturity being a process, a pathway, a journey, rather than a destination, which of course, I suppose when we're trying to apply that to something like coaching, we see various credentials as destinations potentially.
Yes.
And yet, there's something very important, I think, here about that distinction between this is a process, not an end point.
Correct. So I hope you get me right. So I totally agree with how, like, of course, the ICF, we are both in ICF. They give the stages in a way, ACC, PCC, and MCC. Of course, we need to have that because we need some standardization, some indicators, some measurement. However, I think at the end of the day, to me, it is the process, it is inside us, and maybe more important, what for? Is it for our own glory, or is it we can use that level of maturity or mastery, let's say, or MCC, whatever, to the benefit of others? I think that's more important to me. So not just, yes, I achieved this this milestone, I achieved this mastery level, which is good, of course, but then the next question is, what for? Yeah.
I'd love to explore this a little bit more with you, Heru. You said something really interesting to me there. You said it's a process, it's inside of us, and then you said, and what for? So I'd love to invite you to say a little bit more about it's inside of us, and then we can also look at more about the what's for. But share more, please, if you would, about that. It's inside of us.
You know, can I go back a little bit about the story or maybe the history I'm into coaching? Because
of course.
Yeah, and I think you know me, so people can find me on LinkedIn as well. I was working in a corporate for more than 2 decades, and I have no dream, no idea that one day I will become a coach. But then something happened. I took an early retirement from my corporate career, and I went into the coach 2011, about that. And voila, now I'm a coach, with the triple master MCC from ICF. My learning is, well, the competency, the behavior, the doing is no doubt is very important. But I think something inside us, the being, I think that is some insight, some learning that I found during my journey as a coach. So actually, I really like one of my colleagues when he shared about his MCC journey to my alumni, my students. He mentioned something very interesting. Can I share here, because I really like. He said like this: coaching transforms the clients. Yes, we all agree. But then he said, comma, and the coach. And then I think, when I reflect back, yes, actually when we learn to become a professional coach, to become a master coach or maturity in coaching, yes, of course, we give value to other people, transform their life and make them better, explore their potential, the clients, I mean. But at the same time, actually, we also grow. We also being transformed. So I think so the coaching become, I think I borrow from myself, embedded the coaching mindset. It's become embodied. The coaching mindset is one of our competencies, isn't it? Yeah. So there's something inside us.
Yeah. I love this, and you know that I completely align with your philosophy on this around the being and the mindset and who we are as practitioners.
Yeah.
If Heru, you know how when we're learning a skill, we can get very easily caught up, I think, in what do I need to do next? What do I need? How do I get better? And how do I do this? How do I do that? We can get very focused, can't we, on the behavioral skill, the technical enhancement of our skill. What advice or guidance would you offer to people who are thinking, you know, okay, I get this. I have to go within myself. I have to tap into something in myself, but how do I do that? You know, so I'm just wondering for you, how did you become aware, or what was it that you started to notice that helped you to have this realization that your mindset and your own being is really important here? How did you learn that?
Okay, again, can I answer in 3 aspects, Tracy? And after this, maybe I can ask you to share your opinion as well, because this is very interesting. Number 1, how to get that? Number 1, practically find someone that can help us. So when I say this, like go into the right person, find the right program, learn the right materials. That when I say right, is professional coach, like accredited by ICF, so things like that. So because when I flash back, when I started my coaching journey, I have misunderstanding about coaching. So I thought I knew coaching, but actually no, I didn't. So need to find someone or something that can help us. That's practically. Number 2, philosophically, I think it's our will to embody the coaching mindset. So something is about inside us. I think it's very important, because becoming a coach, again, I like the title of your book. Becoming a coach is not just doing or behaving, but it's becoming a coach. That's number 2. And number 3, now I go a bit long, if I may. Lately, I'm interested to learn, hey, there is a paradox. There are paradoxes in coaching. So when you say we need to have a behavioral skills, yes, it's the doing, but also the being is also very important. So this is a paradox. 2 things that looks like contradictory, but actually they are synergy, and we need both. So let's say art and science. Again, I use the name of your program. I like that. I think we found both in coaching, art and science. And of course, if we go a little bit deeper into the coaching competency, we found something like giving trust and safety, but also we need to provoke the client. Isn't it? So the competency says like trust and safety competency 4, but also we need to provoke, evoking awareness. So I mean, in a simple word, because in my simple English language, comforting and confronting. Those are paradox to me. And I think, oh, this is I learned, yeah. So rather than we conflicting those two factors, 2 aspects, if we can embrace them, make them synergy, I think it's going to be a more effective and more powerful. What is your take on this, Tracy?
Well, I mean, I think it would be very, very difficult for you and I to disagree on very much, actually, Heru, because I'm so aligned with your thinking. What what you're describing is making me remember something or connect with something that is really core to my own personal inquiry at the moment. And
Please share, Tracy. Yep.
I have two words for it. One is integration and the other one is synthesis, which we could argue are similar. Yeah. And this, what you've just shared very much speaks to that for me, is as you have described quite rightly, within the competencies, we can see a number of paradoxes, or we might even say contradictions at times.
Yeah.
You know, we have to comfort, but we also have to challenge. And when I'm working with coaches in a training context who are learning, sometimes those paradoxes can be awkward or difficult to understand, because I get many questions, as I'm sure you might do, is, well, I'm being asked to do this, but then I've also got to do the opposite and do something else. And that can create confusion, can't it, while we're still learning the skills. And yet what I'm hearing you say is that it's not either this or that, it's
correct.
It's and.
Yep.
It's both. And that takes me to this idea of integration and synthesis, which has been core actually to my own development in the last few years, not just in my coaching practice, but actually in life, of how do I integrate the various elements of my life? How do I synthesize the various roles that I play, the various things that are important to me, into something that is whole, that is then, you know, an integrated whole? And it's sounding very similar to what you're describing in a coaching setting. How does that resonate with you?
Can I integrate our sharing? So maybe the sentence will be like this: integrating or synthesizing paradoxes makes our coaching more effective.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Maybe that's what I'll call this podcast, integrating the paradox, something like that. I love that.
Integrating paradoxes, that's one of the, if you like to say, one of the keys to mastery in a way.
So that, I mean, that's wonderful. To me, that's just such a lovely way to try to articulate some of it, because quite often, you know, the so-called mastery or maturity, as we're talking about it, is quite difficult to pin down, isn't it? So we've got something there that feels really important. Could you say a little bit more also, Heru, about this idea of what is it for? You know, we've said it's a process, we've said it comes, there's something inside of us, and then you said what for, and you've talked about the transformation of the coach and the client.
Correct. I like the quote from Sir Edmund Hillary. You know, the gentleman that, the first person who reached the peak of Mount Everest, isn't it? I believe you know that name.
Yep, I do.
And of course, there are many lessons you can find YouTube or Google's, but I like two of his quotes. Number one, it is not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. This is also one of the keys into maturity or into mastery. So when I see this, actually, it's not just, I want to reach ACC, PCC, MCC. I think it's how we conquer ourselves. Because the mountain is there. The ACC, PCC, MCC is there already. How we conquer ourselves to reach that. That's, I understand that. And number two, the quote is also, the second quote is very inspiring for me. He said, Sir Edmund Hillary, human life is far more important than just getting to the top of a mountain. So if I translate it, how I make use this capability for the humanity, I think is more important than just getting all the master ABC, the triple masters. So this is the word for. And now when I see my role, I really like coaching role, because in coaching, we are not on the spotlight, isn't it? It's the client in the spotlight. We are facilitating, we are partnering. We are partnering with the client to make the client a better person.
Mm.
So I see myself, well, I like Sir Edmund Hillary so much, but I see myself not look like him. I look like the Sherpa. You remember there's the Sherpa Tenzing Norgay. I read very interesting short article. It's been told that the Tenzing Norgay, the Sherpa of Sir Edmund Hillary, being interviewed. Hey, Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, you are the Sherpa of the hiker, isn't it, Sir Edmund Hillary? Yes. Isn't the Sherpa is walking in front of the hiker, the mountain climber? Yes, I am. So if that's the case, it should be you, the first person who reached the Mount Everest, not Sir Edmund Hillary. And it's been told that Tenzing Norgay said, yes, indeed, I walk in front of him, but at the last few steps before the peak, I stop and I give him to go in front to reach the peak first.
Mm.
I don't know whether it is the true interview or not, but I mean, I think this is really inspiring. So as a coach, I think I see my role more like a Sherpa. Let the client become the best version of their life, and hopefully they reach their own Everest. What is your take about that? That's really inspired me, I think, too.
I love your story there, Heru, and I think both of your quotes really from Hilary Edmond seem to underpin this idea of this is a journey. This is about the climb, not the arrival necessarily.
Correct.
And I guess in a way, this takes me to how I have found my own learning from an MCC perspective. I've often said that my journey or my learning started once I'd got the MCC, because I started to realize that there is so much more to this development pathway, and how the whole point of life, in fact, is the journey of what am I doing right now, today, in my life, and how is that serving me and others, rather than wherever it is I'm trying to head. Something else within one of those quotes that I'd love to ask you about is the first quote of Hilary Edmond, which is around not conquering the mountain, but conquering ourselves.
Correct.
What does that mean for you in terms of, you know, when he says here, it's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves? If you could, I'd love to just hear you say a little bit more about that. And, you know, how have you perhaps conquered yourself, or what is it about yourself that you feel needs to be conquered?
Yeah, again, maybe a tie back with the earlier conversation we had. Of course, everybody has different meanings, but to me, it's like this. I imagine, let's say they use the metaphor of Mount Everest. Mount Everest is there, and it's not to be conquered. It is the mountain climber who conquered him or herself to enable him or herself to go to reach the summit. I think similarly, like with, let's say, MCC, we're talking about mastery coach, and we have a title Master Certified Coach in ICF. It's there with all the requirements and everything. It's just we need to equip ourselves, we need to conquer ourselves to enable us to reach that. And one, again, come back to the earlier conversation, we need both the skill set and the mindset, the doing and the being. So I think that's how. Let me tell you a little bit story. My mentor coach for my junior for MCC, I had a very respected mentor coach. And you know what? Quite a lot occasion she mentioned about what's your mindset, Heru? What's your being? Because somehow we can learn the competency, the behavior skill, the skill set. But then I think, at least for me, more challenging is to fine-tune the mindset, the being. So that's how I said I need to, well, maybe the word conquer maybe is a bit too hard, but I need to adjust to fine-tune my being align with what the coaching mindset is, the being of the coach.
Mm.
What is your view on this, Tracy? So
yeah, I mean, I love this idea of skill set and mindset, doing and the being. And it is actually why, as you described, why I call my coach training the science and the art. And I specifically call it science and art before rather than art and science, because for me, the science bit comes first. We learn the skill set first.
Yep.
And from a solid base of that skill set, then we can focus on the artistry. And I interpret that as the artistry is when we start to become more natural, more fluid, but also when we start to focus on our being. You know, we're not just into I'm doing this with someone else. We're also focused on our being. And I must just reference the model. How I got this idea about the science and the art was actually from a model of learning and development created by a gentleman called Michael Grinder, who has done a lot of work around adult learning, but also around non-verbal intelligence and how our growth is evidenced, you know, to people. So I completely agree with you around this idea of that transition. And I really also notice that, you know, our competencies, especially embodies a coaching mindset and probably maintains presence as well, helps us to think about things like being comfortable with not knowing, being able to manage and regulate our own emotions, being comfortable and welcoming of pause and silence and time for reflection. So there are indications in there, aren't there, of this sense of our being.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more. Thanks, Tracy, for sharing that. So integrating and synthesizing paradoxes in our coaching and in our life. That's maybe it.
Yeah. Well, and it is in our life as well, isn't it? You know, I have noticed that since the going for my own mentoring back in 2019, 2020, when I went for my MCC, it opened up such a rich development pathway for me that still continues, where I'm looking at this integration of life, not just in coaching. And back to your point about conquering ourselves. I noticed that the more I can integrate my broader life, the better I can do that in coaching. I'm not saying the better my coaching is, but because I don't want to kind of get to standards in my mindset there, but I noticed that I am more grounded, I am more present. So it's a little bit like how we are in coaching mirrors how we are in life. Yeah.
Yep. Agree.
So We've covered some really interesting things here, Heru, and I'm just conscious that, as with all of these wonderful conversations, they have to come to a pause at some point. If there's someone out there listening, which I hope and believe there is, listening to us, who is really interested in working on developing their own maturity, who's really, listened to what we've been saying here and is holding that question, gosh, how can I do that? What could I do to help develop my own maturity? What guidance could you offer from your perspective?
This can take like a long time to share, but I try to pin down into this. Well, I like the quote that said, I trust that everything happens for a reason. If I reflect back my journey in coaching, I told you earlier, I never dreamed that I will become a coach. But then that opportunity comes. To me, if we want to see it from our spiritual lens, it's like a divine intervention. So I mean, if the opportunity is there, it happened for a reason, grab it, and then follow it. We never know where it will take us, especially something good like this. So flashback 2010, I didn't know something happened to me. Okay, I just say I got a heart attack. And I think, oh, this is something bad. But actually, it open up an opportunity for me to a new venture, which is coaching. I just follow that, and yeah, thank God. Now I can not just I can become a master, but I can add value to others as a coach and as an educator, because I help quite a few people to get certification, become a professional coach. So I think number one is seek the opportunity, and if the opportunity is there, grab it and follow it. And of course, find the right resources to help us. Because, can I say something which I found it very interesting? Actually, coaching is becoming so fast growing and becoming very popular, even in my country, which is in Asia. Usually we are a bit lag behind. But I noticed there is a study from ICF. The biggest obstacle for in coaching industry, number one is global recession, but number two is untrained individuals who call themselves coaches. So this is really like one of the things that trigger me to start my own institution to help people to become the professional coach, because now the term coaching is so becoming so popular. People can call themselves coaches without a proper, and I think there is a risk. And I heard testimonies from few people who get a bad experience with the person who called themselves coaches, but actually is not properly trained. So that's why I said, okay, so this is a noble profession, coaching. Let's preserve it. Let's make it professional and really a good and noble profession as it is should be. So I think that is very important. So grab the opportunity, find the good resources, and then what for? Pay it forward to other people. Maybe that's, I think I think that's my sharing. I don't know if any comment from you, Tracy. So,
Well, I think what you've shared just needs to just sit there because it's beautiful. And seriously, I can really feel almost goosebumps on my arms because you're just describing something so beautiful that is for me principles of learning for humanity, not just for us being coaches, but
yeah,
how we are as human beings. And it really struck me how you talked about how can we be part of a noble profession, you know,
correct.
which I think is so important when we have a profession that is so popular now, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
And at the same time, we need to also honor the integrity and the quality,
exactly.
humility, and all of those things for it to be a noble profession. And I really believe that a lot of the things that you have shared today with our listeners help us to do that. So I feel really quite emotional as we're finishing this, Heru, honestly, because I feel very humbled, and it reminds me of what is important about this journey of maturity is to stay humble, to stay learning, and to keep thinking about how can we be our best selves in order to be in service of others and pay it.
Exactly. Yeah. How can we be our best self in order to in service to others?
Yeah.
You know, can I add a few more sentences? Because like the quotes from Sir Edmund Hillary, I think at the end of the day, if we learn coaching, we reach the mastery, what is that for? So that was my question, number 3 earlier. I think it's for humanity, isn't it? So we learn coaching to make others people's life better. Well, at the same time, it's also we grow. So humanity is more important than just the title, just the you know what I mean. Like that's why I also like the this is another part of coaching. Can I have 1 or 2 minutes because I want to share my opinion. Coaching is very, very, very good. However, there are others support profession. I know you are a very resourceful person as well, Tracy. Of course, we have like counseling, we have mentoring, training, and etc. So to me, again, this is can I borrow your word, integrating or synthesizing. So while coaching is not the same as mentoring, as counseling, we don't need to conflict each other. Because if we can integrate, we can synergy. At the end of the day, those are the means to support people, isn't it? To support human in front of us, our partners. So it doesn't matter we use the coaching or mentoring or counseling, but at the end of the day, the ultimate intention is for the humanity.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, okay, let's learn coaching, be the best in coaching, but we don't have to be like, we are the best one among the others. I remember the quote, I think it's the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. And I think coaching is go very fast now. I think if you want to go far, go together. So I close with that quote.
Wow, what a lovely quote for us to end on. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Heru. I could spend the whole morning here talking to you. I've really enjoyed and truly benefited from this conversation, and yeah, I'm sure those listening too will as well. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time and your perspectives and your wisdom. And I really value the connection we have, and I'm looking forward to when we catch up again very soon.
Likewise, thank you so much, Tracy, and whoever listening to this, hopefully this is beneficial for you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Coaching in Conversation, the Mastery Series.
a podcast that takes a look at mastery in coaching, what it is, what that means, how do we nurture or cultivate it, and many other interesting questions. You can hear more about coaching education and development at tracysinclair.com and follow us on social media. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and a review, and also share it with your network to help us expand our reach. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.